Okay, so let's try this again. I made like an hour and a half long one. And this window snipping tool video recorder only did 40 minutes of it, but it told me it was on point the whole way. And so in disappointment, I went through, well, man, I was really, I gotta go, but, and then it's like, oh, damn, I forgot stuff. Oh, maybe this was a blessing in disguise. And then I'm like, I was going to keep them short, and then I went real long just to tell the whole thing. It's like, that's not going to work for people watching either. It's more for me to get it out of the way. So what I'm doing is shorter ones, and then try to focus more detail on the shorter ones, and go from saga to saga instead of all one big, you know, book, chapter to chapter instead of one big book. So anyway, here we are. Look at that, man. That's DC, man. That's where I'm at. I'm not in DC. Look at that. Founding Farmers Restaurant, eatery. They do all kind of groovy, organic, or I don't know, whatever. Look pretty cool. But I'm down south here in Lorton, which is like, I got like, let me see. Here we go, Lorton. I'm like right here. Like George Washington and George Mason's church is like right up there. And Fairfax plantations over there. I got a plantation. My house is part of a plantation. It's like 100-year-old house, like the last building left of this old place. It was across the street, but it used to all be one thing. So, I mean, that's what this one's going to be about. I'm going to tell you about me. Okay. And that's me. That's where I live. That's where I grew up. Let me see. Oh, man, this thing doesn't let you move it, does it? Okay, so this is where I was at when I was a little kid. Like that's a CIA headquarters visitor center right there. And I was like right around the corner, 9 minutes away. Well, that's actually 9 minutes up here. So it's more like it's right up the street. Excuse me. And where my dad was affiliate, I guess. We're bloodline, so like he didn't have to like, I mean, he just walk in where he can go. He used to be able to. He just go wherever he wants anyway, because we're like top flight bloodline. Like Nazis. I mean, we're above the Nazis that run the CIA. Like so. Anyway, but that's where I got my split personality training. Started right there. So, and let's see now. I was born on this day, the day the music dies, February 3rd, 1959, which is like a plane went down with Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson and killed them all. Which is noted in a song called American Pie by Don McLean, of all people. McLean, which is where I lived, down the street from CIA headquarters, McLean, Virginia. And then the headquarters is like Langley, which is like, it's all the same neighborhood. But, and this created a vacuum. Rock and roll was kicking off, man. It was 50s rock and roll. It was the cool rock and roll before it got all weird and shit with the 60s, with the Woodstock and everything. And if you ever looked into CIA and Laurel Canyon and all the hippie music and all that. See, that happened because, this plane wreck left a vacuum. It's like these were the top guys in rock and roll. These were the future of rock and roll. They all died. American rock and roll didn't move much for a long time. Meanwhile, the Beatles in the British rock invasion, the Beatles, they came up from behind. And they came to the U.S. and they came with their Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and, all these other British bands followed behind them. And then in came the the Beatles came in all like Buddy Holly, like 50s innocent seeming music, like the Beatles, and the Buddy Holly was called the Crickets. And the Beatles named themselves Beatles because they worshipped they looked up to the Crickets. But but they didn't want to steal their name, even though they were no more. So they went with Beatles, even though it's not like Beetles. And then they came in, and once they got all up there in our bungholes, they turned all hippie freak. And then all these Woodstock and hippie, all this leftist stuff, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it all was made possible by this plane going down on the day I was born. Ain't that, and it's like the CIA played a big role in the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, that was their game. And then here I am. The CIA. Okay, so and February 3rd is like part of a festival. It's like my conception date is May 3rd, 1958, which is like during Beltane. Like my last name is Fontaine, and I was conceived during Beltane and born during Imbolc, which is like when the lambs are born, and the lambs milk the lambs' mothers are making milk for you've been all winter long and you're out of food and everything else, and it's like, so you steal some of that milk, the baby, the lamb's milk from the mom and whatnot. And so, okay, so let's see. Oh man, where'd that? Oh yeah. So, and I was born in Verdun, France, which is like Fontaine. That's my name. I'm like French, but my dad was military, and he's stationed over here in Verdun, which is like a lot of bad stuff happens. It's like World War I, the trench warfare, where let's see how many died. I don't know. I'm not going to spend a long time. Look, I'm already running my mouth too much. So it's like the bloodiest battlefield ever, and it's happened a few times in history at Verdun, because it's a bottleneck between the mountains, like the French and the Germans. So whenever they go at it, and the British and all them, they come down through there, and we try to, the French try to hold it. So I'm born on the day the music died on the bloodiest battlefield in the history of bloody battlefields and stuff. On Imbolc. Okay, now let's see. And all right, so here we got Saint Bernard de Clairvaux. And Clairvaux is where he built his first monastery. Before that, he was known as Bernard de Fontaine. Same last name as mine. Because that's where he's from and his father and all that. But, then you build a monastery and then you adopt the name of that town, or he did, and he became Saint Bernard de Clairvaux. And what he did was he took the Cistercian order of monks from Saint Robert of Molymais or whatever, and like they sent him somewhere else and brought in old Saint Bernard de Fontaine Clairvaux, and he took what Saint Robert had been putting together there with the monks and turned it into like a business lab, a science business lab for coming up with how to grow the crap out of food and how to do architecture and stonemasonry. It's like the Cistercian order grew from Clairvaux into like the Renaissance, and to the force behind the business force behind the Renaissance, and building big cathedrals and just the economies of everywhere they touch taking off, and Claire and Saint Bernard, now he's the founder of Knights Templar, and Knights Templar. He traced the outline. He wrote their charter that got the Pope to sign off for it, and the original 9, 10, 11, the original Templars were all relatives of his. They were all from Fontaine's too, from the same towns and intermarrying families and whatnot. So the Fontaines founded the Knights Templar, and then the original ones, they went to King Solomon's Temple, and after the first Crusades, and we'd taken the temple, and they stayed in I believe they stayed in the Muslim mosque there. Set it up as their headquarters, and they were there for a long time. Their mission was to protect pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land, and one of the ways they came up with to do that was to you're like in France. He said, I'm gonna go down there and save the Holy Land from the infidels, or whatever we call people that ain't us. What do Christians and Catholics call people that ain't them? Jews and Muslims, I guess. But they call us goyim and infidels. But anyway, so you go, I'm going down there, but I want to lug all this gold. It's heavy, and I'll get robbed and killed. And so the Templars would give them a note, a cryptic note that says, like they tell them, when you get down where you're going, or any of the places when you run into any of our little bank tellers along the way, you hand them this note and tell them how much of your gold you want, and they'll give you some gold. And that way you ain't traveling heavy, and you ain't carrying a bunch of riches, and you can. And so that was one of their ways of protecting the pilgrims, which founded the between the Cistercians and the Templars banking system. And then you got the Cistercians. They both grew like crazy. Once they got going, they were down there messing around at Solomon's Temple for so many years, and people think they dug down, like that they knew where a secret treasure was down there, and they went down there and dug it up. But anyway, so so the Cistercians, they both grew like crazy because one of them was like a master, industry builder, and the other was a master bankers in the military branch, and to the Vatican, and so they could they could cross boundaries between kingdoms without anybody bothering them. But they could go wherever they wanted and do whatever they wanted, just like Masons could and other guilds that the kings don't want to see. Give them free reign so that they won't choose that king to work for. They'll choose that. You don't mess with the people. You need to build you really cool buildings and make swords and shit like that. So and so they grew exponentially and powerful, and the banking system, the system they built is pretty much the same system we have now. It's Wall Street and the Fed. It is but it is the same system, because even though the tempers were all rounded up and some got away, like the Pope and the Pope and the King of France went after them because they wanted their gold, and they didn't get it, but they shut them down. But a lot of them got away, and they maintained. They had enough respect that they were able to maintain their books and keep their banking, their system in order. And it's the same system we have today. Like the final credit note on everything to do with Western banking, minus some Islamic countries, pretty much the whole world. The pillar of currency for the rest of the world goes back to the original Templars notes and trusts. And it's the same system. So and that was Fontaine's. Okay. And that started all that mess. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now, along with the World Bank system, Fontaine is a cognate for Phoenician. Now, you ain't going to get that from AI. Nobody's going to confirm that, but I will later in some later videos. So not only were now the Phoenicians, they invented the alphabet system they were sea traders, the first world trade seafarers, and they pretty much founded modern civilization, moving stuff around the Mediterranean and creating commerce and moving different products and ideas and around and managing it and furthering it. And they were like the guys. They were way ahead of everybody else on ships and all that. And the first world, so you got us Fontaines were the first world bankers and the first world traders. Okay, the first, and so it's like centuries later. When the economies got so big that it needed a more central system, a simplified system. It's like their alphabet. Their alphabet simplified, keeping records and managing institutions and kingdoms and that's why they developed it. Like Phoenicians, phonics, then you got fonts. Okay. Font. Fontaine. It's spelled with an F. Okay. Okay, man. Okay, Google fonts. I'm just trying to. I mean, you know what a font is. Everybody knows what a font is. See here. Here's fonts. Different kinds of fonts. It's the lettering. So that's us. I mean that's one reference. That's not with the. I mean I'm going to prove it a much stronger connection later on another video. Okay, so then you got that. Now let's go back over here and see where are we? We got Solomon's Temple, right? Yeah. Templar, Solomon. Okay, yeah, and here's another one like Solomon's Temple is the design. It's a Phoenician design, and they also design. They also did a lot of work. Like they were master builders, and I mean they were like, carpenters. They did a lot of wood, but like they did a lot of Egyptian stuff. A lot of trade with Egyptians. They built a lot of stuff for the Egyptians too, and all over the Mediterranean. I mean, they build ports all over the Mediterranean, and they had huge naval forces of trade ships and military ships, and they built Egypt maritime ships and funeral boats. Lebanon cedar, beyond ships, Phoenicians historically referred to by Egyptians as Feneku, or carpenters, provided the crucial timber necessary for constructing royal palaces, temples, elaborate decorative sarcophagi. And they're also like, if you've heard of Moloch, they're like Canaanites, and they're like Moloch, the god you sacrifice the babies to, that the royals were sacrificed to, and they're like they're like the purple. They had this special purple dye they made from snails, like 1,000 snails to make a few drops of this special purple dye, and if you didn't just buy them robes, you had to be able to afford them. They're very expensive, but you had to work your way up to like being respectable enough trading partners that that you could be anointed a royal power, and you get your purple robes and everything like that. And so they were like like you got the Jews, right? Yeah, and like the Jews were like the chosen people. See? And the Phoenicians were like, they're the ones that chose them. Well, I mean, the Jews are and Canaanites. You had like they're all kind of like right there in the same region, in a lot of ways, one and the same people. But the Jews didn't kill their baby. They didn't practice a lot of the more wicked, the sexual stuff and the wicked stuff that the Phoenicians did, or the Canaanites did, the other Canaanites, and they traded. They were land traders. So you got like being chosen mean like you're our people, that like we're gonna give you this alphabet of ours, and we're gonna put you inside inside our the people that wear the royal robes. They're gonna get some Jews who know the alphabet. They know how they know how to trade. They know how to keep records, and you know, they're going to be like the administrative branches for their trading partners. And it's like, because see, a king has always got to worry his son or his brother. Everybody's trying to, his own people are always trying to kill him, to take his shit. And so to solve that problem, they say, well, we're going to give you a bunch of Jews that are going to manage all your most sensitive administrative tasks related to your wealth and power. You know, like, we're going to surround you with people that can't kill you and take your power, because they will get killed if they even think about it. It's like they will never be accepted as anything but administrative tools of the king, by the king himself. They're going to be the tax collectors and the bill keeper. But they're also connected to international trade, so they're also going to be the ones that import and export everything for the king. But to keep it straight, they have to keep it straight with the king, or they're toast. And the king's got to be straight with them, because, you know, otherwise they'll pack up and go, and then he'll be left running his kingdom with his cousins and his brothers, who are going to kill him and take all his crap and get into a civil war and ruin everything for the Phoenicians' trade. So they, you know, that's and that's why you got like Jews, Abraham, all the big religions come from the Jews, because they had the original simplified language that everybody wound up using before everybody else did. They were using it administratively, and then they wrote down all their mythologies, and everybody had their own stories to tell about their gods and their mythologies and their beliefs. But these guys, by the time everybody else was figuring out how to write theirs down, the Jews had written down theirs and spread it all over the place. You know, it's like the whole reading and writing thing changed the equation, and they just got out ahead of everybody else. You know, and it's like, we're the one God. You know, it's like, well, right. You know, the written word God. You know, you were the one until there were others, but you beat all them. So and that's another. Okay, so now let's go ahead and now this is the hook. Okay, I got a whole bunch of these, a whole different map of the world. And this is a taste of it. I mean, where I'm going is after this is the Charlie Kirk saga. I'm going to show you a whole lot of stuff people don't know how to look for. But I do, because I'm Bobby fucking Fontaine, or Bobby fucking Phoenician. You know, and we get told stuff. Told different stories about history than everybody else when we're little kids, and then when they go, you know what, you get, you know, like everybody around you votes that you will run your mouth if we let you grow up remembering all this. So they ostracize you when you're a little kid, and they abuse you enough that you forget all their secrets and stuff. But I didn't forget. I remembered enough, and well, anyway, they're sloppy CIA bloodline, and I'm smart like a rat, you know. I mean, I figured stuff out when I was a little kid, and then when I got older, I've been studying I've been playing them, man. I play them hard too. I beat the hell out of them, and you'll get see all that in time. But right now I'm going to show you my hook, and each video is going to have a new part of the hook. Unless I run my mouth too long. This is already 30 minutes, and last time it only gave me 40 minutes. Hopefully it's going to give me this much. But, okay. This is Mecca. This is where where Muslims all go, and they walk around the great big black cube, the Kaaba. And they circle it twice, and it's got like a black stone in one of the corners, and they kiss it. And like they're all supposed to go at least once in their life, And so now I'm gonna put a measured a distance marker there, and then I'm gonna go to Moscow. Okay, to Moscow. Distance to here. Now, okay, see that line? That's between Mecca and Moscow. Okay, now look at here. See how that cuts right through Medina? So Medina is like Mecca is supposed to be where Muhammad was born and grew up as a little boy, running around eating figs and playing and chasing the girls or whatever. And then he got to culting around, and I'm gonna be a cult leader, and everybody's gonna have to follow me. I'm gonna get rid of all these other gods and stuff. Like the Kaaba was already there. It had like 360 gods, or it was like an annual god a day type of thing. And then and he comes in, he puts his god in there at first, and then he's like tells them, man, you got to get rid of all your gods and just my god, and they threw him out. Get the hell out of here, man. This smart ass kid. So he went to Medina. And he refined it, he polished it, he polished his message and went to Medina, and he did real well there, and he got himself a big following, and then he went back to Mecca and kicked the crap out of everybody that pissed him off, and so the line runs right through Medina. Now the thing you got to understand about Mecca is now they say that's not the real deal. That's not the real Mecca, because there's nothing there, and there never has been. It's out in the desert. There's no palm trees. There's nothing in the Quran that talks about where he lived. And there's a whole video. There's a guy who talks about all that. Oh, I forgot his name. Says Mecca. Dan Gibson. He does this great documentary where he shows that it is he pretty well proves it, and you don't hear a lot of Muslims arguing with him about it. They might not like it, but they say that it's impossible that Mecca is what the Quran is referring to as Muhammad's where he grew up, because there's no archaeological. I mean, the place he grew up was like historical. It was, and so he says it was up here in Jordan, Petra. Okay, so point is, this was put here. Mecca was built by a caliph who took over Islam, and he changed history. He rewrote everything, and he built Mecca as a tourist trap, because they already had Medina. And then Medina's the real deal, and then Mecca is the fake deal. But the point is that it can be a site to line up with Medina and Moscow. And then Moscow itself is not, it wasn't like, it didn't grow. It came to be the capital because they built it in a swamp to escape the Mongols, to keep the Mongols from killing them all. And then, the Mongols on horses didn't fare well in a defended swamp, and so they cut deals with them. So Moscow's not like, on some, like trading, a place that organically grew as a trade line or something like most capitals. It was inorganically created. Well, organically, inorganically, but both were placed there in kind of situations that you could say, okay, well, if anybody's putting up these lines, well, and they make sense, it's like you want to go from Mecca, you follow the line, you follow the stars, you follow the directions you get straight up that line to get where you're trying to go. Yeah, but see, then mosque. The line, like whatever mosque you're in, there's a part of it that points to wherever Mecca is from anywhere in the world. And that's you pray in the direction of Mecca. So here we up in Moscow. That's on this straight line that lines up and sights in with Medina. Okay. Which I don't expect you to think much of that any more than, well, that is interesting. At this point, it's just the hook. It's just the start. I got a whole bunch of these lines, and they are badass. It's like, wait till you see where I'm going to take you. And so then you will watch the next video, at the end of which I'll do another line. But the video is going to start going into Charlie Kirk stuff. And, so I'm going to break that up into parts. Hopefully I captured this whole thing. And, I'm going to go eat me some dinner. That's what this is. This is like, because I work outside every day, like secondhand, 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day. And then I come in and I cook dinner and I'm tired. And I was like, yeah, but that would be, but I usually have a cup of coffee and sit here and banging or yelling at people on, yelling at politicians on Facebook. And I was like, well, what if I do this in the evening instead of the morning? So this is a test run. Because I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't know if the exuberant me would come out or not, or if I'd be like, sound like, put everybody to sleep. But it looks like, so I'm pleased enough. So better get going. 38 minutes, 15 seconds. Hopefully